All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show Daily. Today is May 12th. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. It's Monday afternoon, early afternoon where I'm at. And yeah, it should be a good show today. I'm going to run through it quickly, I think, or at least not quickly, but I'm just going to get through it kind of quick. And there's a reason, I think, not I think, but you know, the first thing that I always like to start with is the positive message of the day. And I feel like my messages haven't been super positive lately. So as much as I'm trying to be positive, I hope they are. And because I feel as much as I'm embracing my struggle right now, I'm definitely being real with it and just embracing where I'm at and trying to make the most of it and trying to stay as positive and real as I can, right? So yeah, I had a good weekend. I basically stayed my ass home in Baton Rouge because things are tight right now money-wise, and just trying to be smart about what I'm doing in the next step of my life and everything. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. So if you guys see me reading on my phone, what I do in this process is I kind of brain dump a little bit on my ideas, my thoughts, what I'm feeling and experiencing, and how I want it to portray or show up on these videos. And so I talk to ChatGPT a little bit, and it helps me write out my script and my bullet points so I don't veer off and do too much. So if you see me looking at my phone on the video, that's kind of what it is. But today, for today's mindset message, is just embracing the unknown, right? That's the biggest thing that I want to talk about. The last couple of weeks I've been waiting to get into my shop that I own, that I started by myself, that I've dumped hundreds of thousands of dollars into over 5 years. I started this business in October of 2020 out of my house in U Club. And then by July 2021, I sold my house in U Club because I believed so much in this business and wanted to go all in. I wanted to be in Perkins Row so I could walk to my shop and be present and be there every single day. And that's what I've done for the last 5 years. Now, I've damn near been in that shop every single day for 5 years, except if I was on the road. There wasn't a day that I was in Baton Rouge that I didn't go to my shop. I love that shop. It is me when you walk in there. I mean, there's my personal art, my personal collections, my things. And the thing that I think is really hurting me during this process is I made a lot of friendships. I made a lot of connections. I made, my employees and I were close at a time. And I just haven't heard from anybody. And it's just a cold world out there when things change and things happen, so I think that's the hardest part, is not hearing from anybody and feeling like a villain. And I know my intentions during this whole thing, and I gave everything I could to this. So for this narrative to be, I don't want to say spun, but the narrative to be the way that it is and just where we're at, right? It hurts me every single day, and I don't understand why. I don't understand how I got into this situation. And I don't understand what happened to the business, because things were going well by every definition of the business and the term and the definition of business. So I think that's the hardest part, is just trying to make sense of everything and honestly just let it go. That's really hard for me. I've put a lot of time and money and energy into this business, and I care about it a lot. And I care about the people that walk through the door. And I tried to make an experience for everybody and provide joy and happiness. And it gave me a lot of purpose on the daily, So I think that's the hardest part for me, is understanding and embracing that, and just embracing being alone and embracing this next journey, whatever it is in my life, right? So trying to figure out those pieces and embracing that unknown. But I think like the hardest part is hearing things like, hey, tomorrow we're going to go close this deal. Tomorrow you can walk through the shop. Tomorrow you can go grab your stuff. And then just not being able to. And again, I've never done anything malicious. Like, I've never been aggressive, and they locked the doors on me. And again, it's my shop. I own it still. So again, I've always been very nice and cool and during this, and it's just an interesting way for things to play out. And so I am doing this one to vent a little bit and let some of this out and just honestly document this for my future, and know that I have somewhere to go back to and rely on to be like, oh my God, that really was a crazy time. And I know I'm going to come out of it. I don't know how it's going to unfold or what's going to happen next. And I think that's my point here in this conversation, is embrace that unknown. The way that I'm doing it is a ton of meditation. Like literally right before this call, I literally sat down. I like to sit and meditate and close my eyes and breathe and feel my breathing. But there's so many tools out there when the unknown, I keep saying unknown because that's anxiety, right? Anxiety is the fear of the unknown. So embracing the unknown is almost the opposite of anxiety, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do. And so I'll meditate, I'll read, I'll write a lot. I really enjoy writing. I like sketching. And I like watching sports. So that's a big thing. I enjoyed baseball this weekend. Like that was really fun for me to just sit and enjoy the games and just kind of escape a little bit, because most of my time is occupied at the shop. I wasn't able to go to New Jersey, even though my mom wanted me to go for Mother's Day. But I was told that on Friday, well, I was told Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I was going to be able to walk through the shop. So I had to just patiently wait for the other side to go through their due diligence or whatever their process is. They've been out of town and not prioritizing this and just delaying this for me, obviously. And you know, it's things like that. Like I didn't get to see my mom for Mother's Day and just had to find baseball on TV to go escape from because I didn't have the shop. I didn't have my connection in my community and that kind of stuff. So I hope I find that again. I really do. And as uncomfortable as the uncertainty is, it's kind of where the growth lives, right? So I think that's what I'm really paying attention to is why I'm uncomfortable, what I'm uncomfortable about, where the uncomfortableness comes from, what insecurities am I looking to fulfill when I'm chasing certain things or whatever, right? So during this time of the unknown, I'm paying attention to why do I want that so bad? Why do I want to go back to the shop? Why do I feel like I need that? So I've really just been playing with that and really understanding that for my own personal journey. So hope that helps. Hope it's positive. Definitely went a lot longer than I wanted to on that, but if you're facing unknowns today, I see you, embrace them, don't freeze, move forward. That's kind of what I took from this. I love you. And you'll get through this just like anything else, just like I will. And then I was kind of struggling with this daily about like the news around collectibles, and like I think that'll just come up organically. So for my calculated risk section, which is something I still want to stay true to because I love collectibles and that is my brand or was my brand for the last 5 years. And it is something I want to continue going forward with, even if I don't necessarily open up a shop or necessarily own a entity in the collectible space. It is a huge part of my life. Alternative assets have always been a huge part of my life. It's been an investing strategy for me forever. So I think the way that I thought about it this weekend was, I'm walking away from this thing with Cards and Culture, and everybody thinks that I'm probably getting a nice payout, and I'm not. I'm losing a lot of money. It is bad. It's going to be bad for me personally and financially. I'm walking away with zero assets. They're busting my balls about my personal collection and saying that, I'm not going to get into it. But so I'm going to start from scratch. And I think it'll be a cool opportunity to connect with people. And I think people assume that I have so much money and I'm so rich and I just can do this and do whatever, right? And there was a point that I was very financially free and I had a ton of money by normal standards and everyday metrics, right? But that isn't the case today. So right now. And so what I'm going to try to do is embrace that. And I've restarted my portfolio organically. So I was like, why don't I just share this with people and just explain to them my logic and my thinking? And then also for me, if I make mistakes, I can go back and watch and almost like when I was playing ball, right? Figure out where I went wrong. Oh, that's why I was speculating on that guy. This is what I thought. This is what was around that time and why I thought this way, right? So at worst, that's what it's going to be. And at best, if it helps anybody and they want to apply some of my thought process and the way that I invest for me into their own lives and put their own spin on it. This is not financial advice again by any means, but this is just my way of thinking and anecdotal information that has allowed me to, whether you think I succeeded or not, I think have been successful for me in my investing journey, right? So calculated risk now is just going to be me updating you guys on my portfolio and why I'm buying a certain item, why I'm investing in a certain thing, what product I'm going to buy into and break into or whatever, right? And just give you my strategy and give you what I'm seeing and what I'm taking from the market and what I'm taking from certain players and their marketability, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing. And I really want to take the strategy of like a wealth manager, right? And the strategy that we wrote out here with ChatGPT is I'm building a collectibles portfolio like a wealth manager. We'll structure it like this. There'll be blue chip assets. There'll be speculative and modern investments. There'll be emerging markets and prospecting too, right? So for the blue chip assets, long-term stability, just like you would in your investment and financial portfolio, right? You're going to have your blue chip assets, which are blue chip stocks, right? If you watch Wolf of Wall Street, you'll have your blue chip stocks, your Disneys, your whatever, right? But those are your Kodak back in the day. But today, that's the Amazon, the Apples, right? The Netflixes. What you guys see is like it used to be Fang or whatever, or it's Fang now, but it used to be something else like I forget. But anyway, all the Meta, the Apple, the Amazons, all those things that we have relied on have become market giants, right? Are considered those blue chip stocks, right? And that's kind of the way that I'm going to treat Ken Griffey Jr., Derek Jeter, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Patrick Mahomes, right? Those types of players that have already established themselves, Tom Brady's, right? That have won their championships. It's going to be really, really hard for them to mess up the value of their cards because of their character and who they are already, right? And you feel safer about investing $10,000 into a Tom Brady card. Or, again, right, when we're restarting this, maybe it's a Tom Brady refractor that costs $50, right? And that's how you start in this. But again, those players are the reason that I feel confident that their market isn't going to shift that much, right? We're hoping that it really just appreciates because the supply and the demand of their rookie cards are all gone, right? The autographs in their early days are all gone. So there's going to be, new cards and things that are made of them. But as far as their blue chip assets of them, we can go find those, and it's just supply and demand laws, right? So that's basically what I'm looking as the foundation of my portfolio. And for me, Ken Griffey Jr., Derek Jeter, LeBron, and Giannis are the first four that I will start with. I probably will add some football diversity into there, right? The Mahomes and the Tom Brady's, but there's just not as many guys in that world for some reason with football that have the appreciating value the way that baseball has over time, right? With first Bowmans and Topps Chrome rookies. And then also, right, just the basketball cards with National Treasures, true RPAs. And then you have the older guys like LeBron and their Topps Chrome refractors and their, upper deck exquisites if you really get into that world. But those things are really fixed and they don't really budge too much from their market value, right? Like they're going to shift with the overall market sentiment. And so they will be down as the market goes down. But as far as an investment asset, they will always continue to probably appreciate, right? You don't want to ever say always, but that's been their history so far. So history seems to repeat itself. Then we'll go into the speculative and the modern investments, right? So that's the high upside, the short-term swings. And those are the things that when Ellie De La Cruz, gets hurt or something and sits out a year, his market's going to go down. But when he comes back and if he wins an MVP or gets to the postseason and Ellie Mania comes back, right? That's when the upside and the V-shape comes. And so there's always opportunities there, right? And so for me, some of those speculative plays are guys that are still early in their careers that I'm betting on, right, over time, like 4 to 5 years. So somebody like that is Brenton Doyle for me. He plays for the Rockies. He's a center fielder. He's in year 3 of his major league career. His rookie year was not great, but still had good metrics, and his backstory is amazing, right? So I've done my research. I understand him as a player, a little bit of his background. And then just by my knowledge of baseball, I've watched him play a lot. Like I've just locked in because if I'm going to invest in somebody speculatively, I want to know what I'm buying, right? So the way that he plays, his body mechanics, and just his track record so far, right, is what I like to see. And so in his first 2 years, he's won 2 Gold Gloves. He should have possibly made 1 Platinum Glove last year. So to me, that talks a little bit about his well-roundedness and his market availability, right? Because if he's going to sign a free agent deal in 3 or 4 years or 5 years, a team's going to want him to play a premium position, and that's how you get the $200, $300 million contracts. And so last year when he did he hit 25 homers, or he stole over 25 bags and hit 23 homers. He almost did 25 in his second year. I think he could do 30-30 well throughout his career, and if he does develop that power, right, and he does play in Colorado, he could be a 40-40 guy. You never know. So to me, that's the speculative upside, right? He's already a Gold Glover. His cards are not going to be crazy expensive, so I'm not going to have to outlay that much capital up front. And also, his market is kind of crazy. They didn't produce a ton of cards for him in the beginning of his career because he was a D2 player. He was a 4th-round pick, so not a ton of sexiness coming into the draft. So he's actually an easy player to collect, and if it appreciates, I have some really, really good cards of him starting out in his career, right? So that's somebody that I'm looking at. Jahmyr Gibbs, you want to stay away from running backs, so that's why it's a speculative play. But the guy is so explosive, right? And I mean, you saw what he could do last year. His numbers speak for himself the first 2 years. He's really fun. And to me, when you're looking at an investment opportunity, I think we got to take into consideration highlight videos, right? Like that is something that people look at nowadays, our age, and go back and look at for people that they're investing. And you think about 20, 30, 40 years from now, people that want to buy older cards and older players, they're going to look at these guys' highlight tapes. So Jahmyr Gibbs for me is somebody that's really interesting there. And then right on top of that is Victor Wembanyama, right? So been a viral sensation for a while. Obviously has an injury this year already, but we've seen what he does on the court. And if he does what he's supposed to do and stays healthy throughout his career, are we looking at another LeBron, another KD, right? So I want to get in early on that. And especially while he's injured right now, probably when the season's over, I'm going to be looking to buy some of his bigger cards if I come into a little bit of cash, and maybe liquidate some of my other assets that I'm invested into, right? So that way I can free up some capital to go do that. But he would be somebody I'd be looking into. And then Jalen Brunson, right? Like he's on this playoff run right now. I think he keeps doing it. He's up and down with his scoring. He's either going to score 40, right? Or he's going to have like 19 or something. But like he scores in bunches. And when he does, like it's pretty electric. So I like him in a big market. And if he wins a championship, that could be somebody that you could look into, right? So that kind of stuff is really exciting for me. Then emerging markets and prospecting, that goes along with like the 2025 Bowman that just came out. So over the next couple of days, maybe what I'll do is kind of go over maybe like 23, 24 prospects, where they are at now, some guys that I like, and then we'll roll into 25 Bowman products and talk about who we're looking for this year, what we're looking for on the field, and how that correlates with their market value in cards, right? So I think that'll be really fun for me to keep doing and educating you guys on. And then things like, Lorcana and Disney, and then, our guy Gary V just released his V-Friends Topps Chrome. So assets like that, they're in emerging markets, are kind of like prospecting. They're a little bit like foreign entities, right? And things like that you would add to your portfolio as like maybe a Japanese market and some new developments that they're doing in AI you might want to go invest into. You're not really sure about it. It's not on your home court, and in your country, you don't use the app, you're not too familiar with it, but you understand the business metrics of it. You understand the tradition and the history of it and that company, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for in the V-Friends and the Topps Chromes that are coming out with these intellectual properties like Marvel and DC. So again, I'll talk about that a little bit, but that should be a part of your portfolio as well, as collectors are always changing, as market sentiment's always changing, right? So that's the way I'm going to kind of attack my calculated risk segment going forward. And again, this is only 2 weeks into this, so I'm still developing my flow and figuring it all out. But I think that'll work really well. And then as far as today's sports headlines and breakdowns, I want to break down LSU Baseball. So they just made the jump to number 1 in the country. They just beat Arkansas 2 out of 3. If you guys followed my videos last Friday, I put up a preview, kind of preview in the weekend, and I got it kind of right? I said, like, I think LSU takes 2 out of 3. I think the big swing game is Friday night. They needed to win that game, and I told you it was going to be close. I told you I actually liked Arkansas, the number 1 team in some polls, getting a run, right? But LSU winning the game late, and that's exactly what happened. LSU was down 4-2. They made a nice comeback in the 8th, I believe, and then they walked it off in the 9th, I believe, and won 5-4. It was a super late game. They won it, in the bottom again, the same time, ironically enough, as like the Tennessee weekend. I saw that. So they pulled that game out, and I said if they win that game, I think they win the series, right? Because I think they got Saturday pretty locked up. I knew Saturday's starter for Arkansas was a little bit of a question mark. Probably wasn't going to go deep in the game. So if they got runs on him early, which they did, they were going to knock him out, and then they were going to be okay, right? I'm not going to lie, I didn't think they were going to 10-run them. I just didn't think they had that offensive juggernaut in them. But you know how it goes when momentum happens and when all, hitting's contagious, right? So the boys were on fire and they put up runs. And then they walked that one off too and won that one, I think, in the 7th on a walk-off wild pitch or some shit. It was crazy. But took care of business first games. And then I told you, I was like, I don't think they're going to win game 3 unless Kason Evans goes out there and shoves. And he wasn't super sharp. He wasn't terrible. I watched most of his outing, but he only went like 4 innings or something like that. And his pitch count was up. He walked some guys. And that's kind of what you see from a reliever turning into a starter and transitioning into that role after being a true freshman and dominating. And what I was saying is, like, I'm a little nervous about that, but I think I understand Jay's logic, why he's doing it, and I'll dive into that in a second. But again, yeah, the weekend went really well for the Tigers and kind of called my shot on that one. I would have got all my betting picks right, but I went with the over on Sunday, and for some reason it did not go over. LSU didn't score as many runs as I was hoping they were going to score. I thought it was going to be like a 7-5 game or something like that, or a 9-7 game. Honestly, that's what I kind of thought it was going to be, and it was looking like that in like the third or fourth inning, and then it just kind of slowed down after that. So, so again, Tigers look good, and really what I took away from this weekend, because I locked into all 3 games, most of the games. I fell asleep Friday night, but what I think we have a great coaching staff. That is first and foremost, because these guys know how to win games. And I'm not going to say they're not the most talented guys, but they are gritty. They're not all superstars, right? But they know how to win games. And I think that is a testament to the culture and the coaching, right? Jay Johnson is so good at what he does and putting guys in the right position, messing with the lineup, moving guys around, pitching changes, all that kind of stuff, right? He's very tedious and meticulous in what he does, but I think the proof is in the pudding. In his first 3 years here, the dude is just electric, and he wins games, and he finds ways to win games. So, with that said, I really like our team offensively, going back to that, right? There's a few standouts. One of the things that is standing out to me, and I talk about this every year, if you're going to win a championship, whether it's a pitcher or a hitter, ideally both, right? Somebody's going to step up that really wasn't expected, and I think we're seeing that in Ethan Fry right now. That dude has been a specimen since he's been on campus at LSU, and we've seen the raw talent. There's been times he's been in there and been in the mix and been a dude, but lately he has really been a dude. And you saw that this weekend, where I can't remember if he was batting third, fourth, or fifth, but he was right in that mix, either right before or right after Jared Jones, and protecting him. So I think that speaks volumes to who he is as a hitter and where Jay sees him, right? And the numbers speak for themselves. Guy's got 10 homers. He's only started 30 games. Slugging really well, but he's also getting on base too. So I think that's really, really important. He's being selective with his pitches, and working walks, and being able to get on base and however he can, right? But he's also batting .359. I saw that. He's in the top 10 in SEC for qualified hitters for batting average. So that emergence, I think, is going to be huge. And if you can have 2 power threats with him and Jared Jones, right, I think that bodes really well, because at the top of your order, what I want to talk about is Derek Curiel. He's the one that starts everything. And so for a true freshman to be so advanced in his approach as a pitcher, right, when I watch him take pitches and I watch him make solid contact with certain pitches that you're like, oh my God, dude shouldn't be able to do that at 18 or 19, whatever he is, right? He's a true freshman from California, but the guy just knows baseball. You can see that in the way that he is a calm demeanor up there at the plate. He recognizes pitches, and when I say that, it's his ability to take pitches slightly outside the zone, but also recognize off-speed pitches early in the count, not chase pitches, and not even flinch at certain pitches. And to me as a pitcher, right, I'm looking at their reactions and how they're responding to pitches. And so for me, Derek Curiel reminds me a lot of Anthony Rendon. I'm not saying that he is that comp, but he reminds me a lot of Rendon, because I pitched against Anthony Rendon my sophomore year, his true freshman year. And that year was my good year in college, and I dominated pretty well. We won the national championship. I was our Friday night starter, and I made some guys look silly that year. And I knew when I had an advantage on guys, and watching the way that Rendon took my pitches and tracked my pitches and then fouled off pitches, hit pitches, put balls in play, I was like, oh shit, this guy's different. Like, there is just something different about him and the way that he sees my pitches and the way that he sees the game, right? Now, the guy went on to make $200 million and win a World Series, so I wasn't wrong, right? I'm not saying that's Derek Curiel's path. I hope it is. But that's what I'm seeing in this kid. So to have him at the top of the lineup makes me feel so confident to get their offense started, right? So I absolutely love watching that kid play. Jared Jones and his improvements this year. We've seen a little lag in SEC play, right? Because before SEC, we saw somebody that were making crazy adjustments and not chasing pitches. That guy, I think, had like a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio going to SEC. Now it's dipped a little bit, and he struck out a little bit more, but that's gonna happen in the SEC. But I think overall you're seeing such a more balanced hitter, and I think that he sneaks into the first round now because his raw power. I think a team that values the power versus necessarily getting the hits and the on base, right? The Kyle Schwarber of the last couple of years, like that plays in the major leagues, right? The launch angle, all that kind of stuff. So I could see Jared Jones getting into the first round, and I think that his improvements as a hitter have been some of the most impressive things I've seen from his freshman to his sophomore, and then sophomore to his junior year, and I'm so happy he came back. So I hope he gets rewarded. I hope he becomes a first rounder, but I hope more importantly he drives this team because he's a great leader, and I hope that they make a deep postseason run. I think Dickinson's been a great transfer, obviously, from Utah Valley State. He's been solid. in the 3 or 4 or 5 hole, wherever he's hitting, right? He's got a little bit of power, 8 home runs, but 13 doubles too. So he can be that gap-to-gap guy and drive in runs, and I like him in the lineup. He's a big flair guy, so he's going to be a fan favorite. The kids are going to love him in Omaha in the SEC tournament. So hopefully he does well and kind of carries that momentum in the postseason, because you know that's what LSU loves, right? LSU fans love somebody that they can get behind. I think Dickinson could be that guy. He wears the arm sleeves and the like the eye thing, the long hair, the dangly earrings, the glasses on the hat at night. Come on. But whatever. Kids love it. He's a fan favorite, and as long as he hits the baseball, I don't give a shit. Like, just do your job and go do it, and that's all that matters, because LSU fans love it. So I think that's great. Chris Stanfield, I think he is a sleeper value. I think transfer that guy, basically being a second leadoff guy in the 9 hole, right? Being able to steal bags if he gets on base, but be able to bunt, put the ball in play, batting over 300, right, in the bottom of the order is so huge, turning it over for those guys at the top. And then guys like Louis Hernandez, Milan Pearson, Brown, they're role players, but I think they're so solid and they're great players. Like, they're just great players. But in this team, they know their role and they're embracing it, and I think that's the value that they bring, right? So again, not crazy superstars, not all first rounders, but guys that are going to play professional baseball, guys that are going to go win games. And when you have a coach at the helm like that, and then we get into the pitching, what I'm about to dive into, I like this team. I like the way they're set up for the postseason. I really do. And I really like it because of their first 2 pitchers, right? You have a Friday night, Saturday night ace. Both of those guys are aces. They are true guys that can pitch 6 or 7 innings and absolutely dominate a game because of their swing and miss stuff. You got Cade Anderson, who has 124 Ks and only 20 walks in 75 plus innings. And then Anthony Ianson, 116 Ks in 74 innings with only 27 walks. These guys are attacking guys. They're getting swings and misses. They are going after them and not putting guys on base, right? That is what you are looking for out of your Friday and Saturday starters, because when you get into the postseason and you are in a regional and you are in a super regional, you need those guys to pitch 6 innings. You need them to pitch 7 innings, because you need your bullpen at full strength, and you need your guys coming in the right situations, not in the 3rd inning to try to stop the bleeding, right? So that's what I see from these guys, and I locked in on Cade Anderson because I love watching him pitch. His fastball looks like 97. I mean, it is 93, 94, 95 from the left side, but it looks like 97, 98 because of the life on it, but because of his changeup and his curveball. And then he looks like he's throwing like a little bit of a cutter slider thing too that's coming in on righties. I love it. So that kid's makeup is awesome. Ianson looks like a juggernaut too. I love that kid. I've never met him, but I look forward to talking to him. And I think he's the big difference maker, right? And then that Sunday slot, that's the big kicker, right? We've seen Case and Evans start the last 3 Sundays, but I think, this is just speculative, I have not talked to Jay about this, I think Jay's just doing that to show that we have a 3rd starter, and also to stretch Case and Evans out in the event that he needs to start a game, right? There's always going to be a need for a starter in the postseason, in random games and in big games, and we saw it in 23. We don't win a national championship without Ackenhouse, coming up and pitching that huge game where he pitched like a CG or something against Florida. I can't remember the exact, but like, you don't get those games and then Ty Floyd to be on 3 days rest or 4 days rest, and then Skeens to be able to sit out and then have him available for the if necessary game, right? Unless those people step up. So Case and Evans being able to be a starter, but also be able to close games when you need him to, or be able to come in the bullpen and get outs. We'll see what happens in the SEC tournament. I know Jay doesn't like to necessarily go there to try to win it, but when the regional comes around, I'm anxious to see how Jay's going to use these guys, and if Kaysen's going to be a true starter, or if he's going to be kind of that hybrid role that we talked about a few times. So either way, I think they're set up. I love their staff. And then you got Zach Cohen too, right? The other freshman that's electric out the pen. You got Jaden Newt that can come in mid relief and get swings and misses and get outs. You got Maverick Rizzi. You got DJ Primo. I mean, and then Chase Shores is my X factor, right? If that guy can figure it out down the stretch, he was our Sunday starter to start the year. He's been a stud, and he should be, and he's going to be a stud for a long time in baseball. 6'9", throws 100. He's just coming back from Tommy John, right? And he's trying to figure out his body and his feel and all that stuff. So I think if that guy can figure it out down the stretch, and he can be a high leverage reliever for us, or be that starter that we just talked about, right? To just start a game and be able to give us 5 or 6 and then bring in a Cohen or an Evans after that. That's where I think we're going to be really killing it. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. The boys got South Carolina at South Carolina, definitely a sweepable series to put them in the mix to be at the top of the SEC. I think two of the top two seeds don't have to play, maybe top four, I don't know, in the SEC tournament. So I think they're in a good position there. And they should take care of business. Texas doesn't have an easy cakewalk. They're at Oklahoma this weekend. I'm not sure what Arkansas has, but again, those three teams at the top are right there. Vandy's in the mix. There's some other ones too that are good. Tennessee is obviously a good team, just struggling right now. So should be a good mix and a good finish to the SEC season. I'm excited about it, but I'm more excited about the Tigers. And I tried to get Nate Yeske on for a call, but hopefully we'll get him this week and we can talk a little bit about that dog and that mentality that he's instilled in these pitchers, because this staff is nasty and they have some of the best stuff that I've seen. So excited for this team. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm looking forward to this week. Peace and love. See y'all tomorrow.